edition of the GSM Surprise Spotlight. This week I have Brandon Drazic with me. Welcome, Brandon.
How's it going?
Say hello to everyone at home.
Hi, I'm Brandon.
So, Brandon, let's how long you been at Fuse for?
2 years tomorrow.
Tomorrow?
Tomorrow.
Well, it's funny because Bijan was 2 years on the 1st.
This was yesterday. Yeah.
Yep.
He started 2 days before me.
Yeah. So, let's rewind a little bit. Born and bred in St. Louis?
Yep.
Whereabouts you grow up?
Manchester, Baldwin area.
Okay, what school? You know, the big question in St. Louis is what high school? What high school?
Parkway South.
Parkway South.
Yep.
And how old are you?
29.
Okay, you're younger than my wife.
What is she, 32?
Yeah. Yeah. So, graduated high school?
Yep.
College?
No, I started a little bit of college, but college wasn't for me.
What did you start doing in college?
I was going to try to go to school for software, like software management kind of.
Okay.
And school just wasn't for me. Originally, I had planned to go to mechanic school, and that fell through just from a rough patch in life. And here I am today.
Good. Well, I'm glad that worked out.
Yeah.
So so that was after high school, right?
Yep.
So then you didn't go to college, but then what was your first real job?
Well, the job that I did majority before this was my family owned the dry cleaners.
Okay.
The first dry cleaners on Manchester Road 65 years ago. It was gravel one way each way. And my grandfather started it, my dad took over, and then I was going to be third generation. But what used to be a suit and tie job is now a pair of khakis and a t-shirt, as you can tell.
Mm.
You know, and the business just kind of went downhill, and we ended up shutting that down. And then I was trying to get into car sales, but I guess it was probably age at the time, and I was going to the wrong places, I guess. And so I got into ride-in service, which
Where did you start there?
J Wolf Toyota.
Okay.
In Manchester, Baldwin area. And I did that for a little over a year, and it just kind of,
Let me ask you, let's talk about that. How did you get that job when you didn't really have any experience in the car industry or anything like that? That's kind of a stepping stone job. What, you just applied?
I applied for a sales position. They had me do this like test thing to test where I would rank, like in like sales or service or whatever. And I got a call from the service manager, and he was like, "Well," he goes, "I got a position for a service writer if you want it." And I said, "Absolutely." And I did my interview and got the job. You know, I mean, I understood the basics of cars and understood, like, you know, mechanically and whatnot, but I got the job, and to be honest with you, I am thankful to be out of that side of the business.
And you were there for a year?
Just over a year.
And then what did you do after that?
I did landscaping for like a couple months, and then I applied here for service. And Brian Knowles called me in for an interview. And then they ended up hiring someone else by the same name as Brandon, as me, and who has a little bit more experience, which, hey, that's understandable, you know.
Well, actually, what happened there was Brian came to me and said, "Hey, I interviewed this guy for a rider's position. He's got experience in riding, but I think he's more suited for a sales position, or he's more interested in sales than he is." And he kind of liked you, and I said, "Well, we'll give it an interview at least and go from there." So I think then, didn't you interview with me and Steve, maybe?
I interviewed with Chris first because I interviewed with Chris first before Brian, and then I interviewed with Brian, and then I interviewed with you.
Chris Fetterman?
Yeah, because Brian was actually to do something that day, and you were off that day as well, I think. And I actually interviewed with Chris originally the first time.
So Chris was here already when you came?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought you started before Chris, but maybe not.
No, Chris was here.
Okay. Well, let's talk about that a little bit. So, a lot of people that I've done these with, we talked about Chris. How did that affect you when Chris passed?
I mean, I didn't know Chris all that well because I'd only been here a little while. It was definitely like detrimental to everybody. You know, I mean, it was like, hey, you know, this is the man that gave me a job and gave me an opportunity. Al said, "Hey, you want to do sales?" And I said, "Yeah, it's a job," you know, and didn't think that it was going to become a career right off the bat because I fell in love with the job.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was kind of hard, but like I said, I didn't know Chris on a personal level like say you did, but yeah.
So you came here, started selling. What year did you start here? So
2019. It was July 3rd, 2019.
Yeah, so Chris would have been here for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and he had passed in that September. So
Yeah.
been here. Okay, so let's talk about your career here so far. Kind of started off on a rocky start.
Yeah, which is understandable.
Yeah.
I mean, I was unemployed for a little while before after this. I mean, I did landscaping, which that's not really a job. You know, you're done by 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the day.
Yeah.
You know.
What was the hardest part in the beginning when you first got into the role that kind of, I won't use the word struggle, but it was a little bit more difficult than you would assume?
Listening.
To the manager, you mean?
Just listening to, thinking that I knew everything, but I didn't. You know, and once I finally listened, I started getting the grasp of.
Are you listening? He said that he couldn't listen.
And I finally started to get the grasp of what needed to be done.
And then, can you describe when it actually clicked for you, or what time? How long after you started this job do you really think you were like, okay, I get it?
Probably about a year.
About a year in?
Yeah, I mean the first actual year in the business is, well, so I was only here for 6 months for that year, 2019. So it was a little rocky, and then the start of 2020, I guess it was probably right about a year, yeah. Because it started 2020 was kind of rough with COVID and everything.
So
but then I had more time to actually, like, because we weren't working here, we were working at home, and I had more time to actually focus on my customers and how I needed to sell them.
So I'm going to tell you the truth, and I think you already know this. The jury was out where you were concerned with me in the beginning. I wasn't sure if you were going to make it.
Oh, absolutely. I didn't know if I was going to make it.
But now, be honest with you, I'm not just saying this because I'm interviewing you, but you're really one of the more consistent, just people that make it work. And we know, which we'll touch on in a second. We know that outside work can really affect what's happening in your work life.
Absolutely.
We won't get too in depth in it, but I want to touch on it of why. In fact, let's go there right now. So there was a while back there where you were having some issues with your girlfriend.
Yeah.
And it was really affecting your job.
Yeah. And what I to be honest with you, and I'm just gonna throw it out there right now, I used to carry home life to work, and I learned to not carry around home life at work. You know, and that's really is what has formed me into a salesperson.
Because you were really struggling for a little bit there. And we weren't going to give up on you, that wasn't the case, but it was affecting you so much that you weren't coming in, you weren't concentrating, you weren't, you were more worried about what was going on at home versus, so that being said, the reason why I want to bring it up is do not bring your home life to work. I know that's easy said than done, but in the car industry, it can totally affect what you do every day.
Absolutely. And if you have your cell phone on, just put it on silent. Look at it now and then. To be honest with you, that's what I learned to do.
Yeah. What's it like working here?
Awesome.
You do like it?
Oh, absolutely.
Even though you're on your case all the time?
You're not on my case. There's other people out there that you're on their case more than me. If you just come into work and get your
let's talk about it. So as you know, the car industry has an immense amount of banter and let's say stick that goes on. How do you deal with it?
I just mind my own business, to be honest with you. A lot of times.
Even though you're brunt to the joke sometimes.
Absolutely. I mean, if you can't take a joke, then you shouldn't be in the car business because.
Oh, we had a time there where you were taking things a little personal.
Well, yeah, sometimes.
But after we had the conversation, everything was okay. But you did get a little.
Oh, I know.
A little offended at times.
Oh yeah, I'm not. And to be honest with you, it's after being in the business for 2 years. Well, actually 3 years if you consider my service experience. You know, it's if you can't put it this way, if you can't handle Corey, you can't handle you.
That's for sure. So last month you did the impossible and became top salesperson of the month, correct?
It wasn't impossible.
For the first time?
For the first time, yes, absolutely.
The reason I say that's impossible is kind of in the same 2 or 3 that's been top for quite some time.
Yeah.
But you took the bull by the horns and actually completed. How many cars you sold last month?
16.
That's your biggest month?
I think my first biggest month was 16, actually March of 2020. So it was a tie.
Okay.
My next goal is 20.
Well, I see it this morning. What's your aspirations for the future?
To be honest with you, just continue to learn the business. Hopefully, become a team leader at some point. You know, I'd love to become a team leader. I think that I'm pretty good at managing myself and trying to help others. And then hopefully, in the future down the road, a couple of years, maybe become a manager.
What do you think the key is to be a good salesperson?
Listening. Listen, understand what your customer wants, and find what they want and get what they want.
Okay.
They have to like you as well.
Yeah.
So if they don't like you,
have to make a friend. That's for sure.
yeah, that's the biggest thing. Like Paul has always said, make a friend, don't make a customer.
Yeah. Is there anything you want to say to the people at home? Why to come in and buy from you?
Come into Lou Fuse Ford. I'm very personable. I'll find what you want, and we'll get you out the door.
All right. Well, that's about all I've got. You got anything else?
No, sir.
Okay. Well, as always, over at Lou Fuse Ford, we can replace the car and not the customer, and I'll see you all next week.